All right, we are recording. So welcome everybody to the first official Experiential Ed Blab.
Yay! Hold on, I gotta give you props. Giving Ed props. Lots of props for the first official.
Yeah, thank you. And I give you props right back for jumping in here. Appreciate that. So again, if you're new to Blab, welcome. If you're new to, haven't seen us at all in this, what the Experiential Ed Blab basically is a talk show for experiential educators and facilitators and trainers. Looking to do this every week to every other week, depending on holidays and other things coming up, where we can pick a topic and just have some somewhat intelligent conversations regarding the topic. This week's topic is group contracts. A little bit about group contracts. Traditionally, from the world I'm in facilitation, I have a group for a day. And before that day gets officially started, we go through what the group rules are. If you think of standard forming, norming, storming, performing, even that norming's in there. And as facilitators, we kind of help it along by setting some ground rules. And we'll talk a little bit about how that's different depending on what groups and that. So what I'm looking for tonight is just a discussion on how our other people. I'll tell you what's in my basic contracts. I'll ask Mandy, since she's already in the chair very shortly here, what's in her contract.
I'm only here. I'm waiting for Frank. That's my only point for being in the chair.
All right. Leave me alone up here. All right. That's fine. So I'm going to, and if you want, you can jump out and back in. I did put you on the spot here. So, because that's one of the points of my contract is choice. Whether it was originally years ago when I first learned it back in '95, called it challenge by choice. Now I go with the ESI verbiage where we call it choose your challenge, but some aspect of choice is always involved in my contract. So same thing with the Blab. And actually, I'm going to throw this back up from last week, because one of the things that put it in here, and you can, anything that we're putting up in the chat window here that you can click on, it'll take you to another page, but you can still keep this window open, and you'll still should be able to hear us as we go. Frank's back. We'll see if he jumps in the chair here. But
go, Frank.
One of the things that I find really interesting. Oh, look at that!
I'm clicking.
I clicked. Hopefully, I didn't unclick him while you were clicking him. I'm going to lock the seat to start here. Hey, yes, you are, and we can hear you.
That's so awesome.
So,
howdy.
You will have to share the secret later on how you were able to finally make it work after we tried.
I'm just using my phone.
That'll do it. We can hear you. We can see you. So welcome. So,
that's good.
Yeah. So I was just about to say, and I don't know whether you saw this or can see it on the phone, but if you click on the picture that I put up, Blab has a contract for all of us. And
it's very small.
It's very small. I'll read it to you, Frank. Do not blab and drive. Respect each other. Argue the point, not the person. Honor the viewer's time. Let others talk. Don't be an awful person to be around. And the host sets the rules to the party unless they conflict with these rules. So, and I'm also going to make you a host here, Frank, too.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's not like a host is an alien, right?
No, that's a different type of host. That's going to be that's a different Blab.
I didn't sign up for that one.
No.
I'm trying to see if I can follow on the tablet as well, so I can.
Yep, we'll yell at you if you get some nasty feedback there. So I'm going to give you some props for being here too.
Yay!
So, and also
about
for
the props
joining us and that are logged in, you can. The whole props thing is, in general, they go away afterwards. They're not part of the recording. And also remind everybody we are recording. So if you are on air, it is recorded. If you make a comment on the side, that's recorded too. It goes up on my website as a comment, just so everybody's aware of the choice they're making over there. See how I did that word choice in? Anyways. So back to contracts. I mean, Blab even has it there. And again, every group that comes together has some type of distracting us, Frank. You're good. Some type of norms.
Sideways.
So, all right. I will start with mine, and I'm going to actually throw one more link up here because nobody's telling us. Oh no, we have somebody excellent Who's in the comments? Who's all the way up from Northeast there? I don't know if you guys are looking at the poll.
Hey, Lauren.
Welcome, Lauren. Excellent. Thank you for joining us. So I'm going to change the poll over now. And this is going to be a word cloud that we're going to ask people to go ahead as we're talking and type in. I think I set it for 4 words that you can put in, but put 1 word in, hit enter. And what are the main words you use in your contract? So, and I'm also going to put 1 more link in here so that you guys can see the word cloud as it is forming. Paste.
Don't get dizzy.
There's the link. Okay.
So, I'm sorry. Yeah. So that link, and you guys tell me if I'm wrong, should be for both the poll and the word cloud at the same time. Or in the word cloud, you can click on poll.ev.com/experiential ed, and that'll take you how to enter. And then you can come back to that link to see other people's results. So,
It is still showing the last slide on the poll everywhere, Ed, where it's the US map.
try a refresh.
There we go.
And let me know if I need to repost.
It should be good.
Yeah. So I was saying right before the poll started that I'm trying to find ways to bring some type of experiential of some type into each of these blabs too. I can totally tell you're there, Mandy, because you just went purple.
Oh yeah. Nice.
Right.
Well,
So,
it's still, when you click through right now, it says when poll, I'm purple again, feel like Violet Beauregard. It says when poll is active, respond at pollev.com/exped. But when you do that, it just says welcome to the presentation, and it doesn't look like you're currently displaying a poll.
okay, so I'm going to try this one more time here, and then we're just going to start talking and quit playing with technology here.
It's so much fun, though.
You're not
I know.
quit playing with technology yet.
What's that?
Not going to quit playing with technology.
I know. All right. So on my side, it says it's active. Nope.
Okay.
Try it now.
There we go. Nice. It says
Great.
that we can respond 5 times, 1-word responses.
Yeah, because I realized, hey, Sonia, that my contract turns into 5 sometimes. So again, all right, great. So I'm going to throw mine in there also. Mine are, my original was safety, not SACT, safety, respect, effort, and I'm just going to put down choice as I mentioned, however you phrase it. Okay, and we'll see how that comes together. So those were my originals, and the reason those were my originals of safety, respect, effort, and choice is because that's what I was trained to say. And again, I think that's a good place for all of us to start. But again, looking at a group, safety, physical and emotional safety, we talk about effort, asking people, and I'm not sure, and Frank, you and I came through the same training a year apart. Mine kind of evolved with effort. Not only about giving your best, but I remember doing a spiel where we'd meet for the low course team we'd be working with, and we look at the high course and say, everybody look up top right now. Isn't that cool? Isn't that distracting? Look at what those people are doing up there if they were off in the distance, and then talk about how much effort are you giving this group, though, if you're distracted. So that'd be a lot of times how I'd explain it that way. And then choice, talking about no one's going to force you to do anything you don't want to do today. Which was always fun with grade school kids of like, I'm leaving then, and talking about how, what choice, meant for out at the course versus choices they had, whether they came out or not. So, Mandy, what do you got? I'm going to look at the cloud here as it's coming together. I can't hear you, Mandy. What happened? Frank, can give me a nod. Frank, you talk so I can see if okay. No.
I muted myself because I had a kid doing something over there, and I was trying to not have all of that carry through the mic, and I forgot. It's like being on. How many of us have been on a call and on mute and gave a wonderful opinion about something? Then realized nobody's listening. So I was saying that I have
conversations with Ed that way.
Probably really great ones. So I was saying that I'm struggling because I have one answer left. And so, of course, then it's like, but so far what I plugged in was experience, choice, participation, and value or values.
Ooh. I want to know more about experience. So when you talk about experience, in a contract.
Just talking about, and this is where I was thinking about the fifth word being your, because what I really do stress is that it is their experience, right? And in my contract, it's acknowledging ownership over their experience. And that's a really good segue into the participation, the choices that we make, and all the other things that I won't throw out there right now because we're going there. But the experience that they're there to have being their experience, as well as an opportunity to just be there that day and have that. So I really, because a lot of people, especially when we work with kids, don't really think about an experience and what that looks like and what the possibility in that is. And so I really try and talk about, this is from right now until you go back on the bus or however they're departing. This is our experience here today, and we're going to start building that now. So what does that look like? So that is, and then of course there are all the other ways that the word experience can come back into it too. But when I wrote experience, that's the core of what I meant.
Gotcha. Very cool. And I think just to expand it to, because there are some people out there that I don't know personally, and I know there's other people watching live through the website, that part of this conversation is not just for challenge course facilitation, although all three of us, that's where we're coming from. I did label this blab as education also, so there might be some teachers out there, and I know that teachers are setting those contracts day one in the classroom too. So, I mean, I'm hoping that this is applicable in those situations too, onto a corporate trainer that may not, and we're going to get to that in a little bit, of how do we get the buy-in from our participants. But, even when we're in more of a corporate setting and we're doing trainings, we still have some type of contract that we're putting out there.
Always. So. Yep.
Well, I think too, with the educational system, a lot of the schools are doing the be ready, be safe, be kind. And it's a very simple, straightforward thing. The posters are all up there, and trying to find out what the school is or the organization is that you're working with, and can you take what they already have in place?
Yes.
You don't need to recreate the wheel with what you have. If you're working with a big corporation, they've got their vision statement or mission statement, can you incorporate that into it? And so holding the phone for a long time. So letting them know something they should already know. And so it makes the process new and not foreign. You don't have to worry about making this whole analogy and metaphor. It's right there. It's what they do every day when they go to work. Because I'm sure they all have it plastered on their desks and their cubicles, what their mission statement is.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay, Frank, what are you using these days for a contract?
Using the basics. When I switched a few years ago to saying personal safety, personal respect, personal best effort, and then personal choice. So basically it was my attempt just trying to brand my own thing, but basically realizing that you have to kind of start with yourself. And if everybody's taking their own individual contract, then it's going to spread out the rest of the group. I've done everything from the micro machines guy, the really fast contract, just to try to get kids to listen. I've done slow one. I've turned activities into the contract. It's really just kind of catering to the groups as best I can. But with like Ed said before, the basics that we came up with, the safety, the respect, the effort, and the choice, that's the school of thought that we came into. That's the training we had. And so we just kind of followed it along those same lines. That's pretty much the go-to for each group that comes out.
Yeah. I think that a lot of times what the content is and the overall subject of the contracts is pretty universal. For me, it just might manifest itself in a lot of different ways. It might be just the verbal standing in the circle. Okay, thumbs up. If that works, it might be for a younger group, especially that needs to move a lot, some sort of, physical, do this, if you agree to that, or, do this if that's okay with you, or, and standing up and down and squatting and moving too, to indicate agreement with different parts of the contract, or disagreement, which we should talk about too. Maybe not right now. And then, or using raccoon circles too, to be a very symbolic, everybody have contact with that raccoon circle, with that piece of webbing. And when everybody has contact with it and we agree to all these things, tying that water knot, and that signifying, okay, our group is formed and we're ready to go. So for me, it's not as much the different pockets of things that I need to say to each group. It's the best way to say them to them,
Yeah. And I think that part of it too is looking at the different groups we work with. A lot of times the basics don't change, but this is getting into the next thing I want to talk about. You brought up, Mandy, is how do we present the contract to a group? When I'm doing a training for new facilitators, I've still got those basics still in there, but it's not necessarily, sometimes it's the same, but it's not necessarily the same way that I do it with a group of 8th graders. So one of the things that I've found that I've been doing, and this goes back to the part of me feels guilty for it, but sometimes good ideas come out of when you're bored with your facilitation style and you try to do something different to entertain yourself. And this is back when I was doing 5 groups a week. I started, rather than, and I think this came out of originally even my first year of facilitating, that I'm now telling this group the contract, and usually 7th or 8th graders, and I'm telling them this contract. And it's taking me, no matter how fast I'm trying to do it, it's like 10 minutes of me talking. And so at one point I'm looking around like, you guys are bored, aren't you? Yeah. I'm like, okay, we're playing evolution. We're playing morph, whatever. And we're playing rock, paper, scissors or whatever. But then I'm setting up that game with the intention, that icebreaker, to say when you're done and you're in, again, I can put up rules if anybody wants them for morph. If you don't know what we're talking about, basic rock, paper, scissors type game where you move up until you're done and you quote unquote win and you're watching. But I tell the winners as grand protectors, you need to make sure that everybody is being whatever I've covered in the contract already. So safe and respectful. And then when it's done, I have my processing questions of, all right, you made a grand protector. What did you see that was safe in this group? What did you see that was, oh, and man, I forgot to put this in there. Fun. That was the 5th one. That's always been in my contract from the beginning, of having fun. So again, and then to the extreme where I started doing game, point, game, point, game, point, game, point. But then all of a sudden I realized it was taking about 2 hours to get through my contract on a 4-hour program, and that is not necessarily the best. It's great when you have a 3-day or 4-day program, but I don't get to do too many of those.
But I guess that also begs the question of, why are people doing a contract? Is it just because that's what they were taught? Is it because they're trying to hit, hey, this is the basic process. We're going to do an activity. We're going to talk. Let's get some guidelines. I still remember, and I've tried it a couple times, group right off the bus and put them right on zigzag. Didn't do a contract, just gave them the information, went right to it. And then as something came up, hey, you know what? That board's pretty heavy. Let's try to be safe out here. And then just did that whole thing, the whole activity. And it wasn't until I finished the activity that I actually got the quote unquote contract done. And it really didn't make a difference, which I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but, we were still being present in the group. So it's not like we were letting the things slide or whatever, but we still had, as a group, that opportunity to just jump right in and be active. And again, right group, right time, right place, right activity. But again, I think that question really has to be answered: is why are we doing the contract?
Right. And I put that question up in the whoops. Oh, I didn't mean to delete his comment. Nice mug, by the way, Frank. I put it up in the comments there because one of the things I do want to have is I want to try and do some nice shirt. I want to try and do some quote unquote show notes, so to speak, so that we can come back to it. And I want to try and find a way to highlight some of those points. And I think that is, I mean, to start off, to me, the original reason of the contract is having everybody to agree to be safe for the day. And as I've moved into the training position, knowing that that's about risk management, that nothing what we do is safe, and finding a way to tell 7th graders or 8th graders or high school students that without freaking them out and still having them watch each other's back. So I'll still use the word safe from time to time, but again, why are we even doing that contract to start with? And that's why I love when I'm working with high school groups, being able to rip out that butcher block of paper, especially after we've done a couple name games or icebreakers, and say, what is it that you guys think is important about being in a team, or Chiji cards, or something that, I did a leadership group a couple weeks ago from a high school and had them pick a card. They were, what is something that when you work in a group that you need from other people? Pick a card that represents that. From the most people are familiar with Chiji cards. If not, I can put a link in the show notes to them. And somebody picks like the lightning bolt and says, I need strength and accountability from everybody. Well, that contract is starting to form from them. And my intention in that situation is, I'm going to make sure that some form of safety is in there, but really they're using words other than respect, but they mean respect. They're using words other than the words I would use. And when they can create that contract, I think that when we get to the third part of the conversation of how do we use it, I don't have to use it because they're holding each other accountable to the contract as the day goes on then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and to me, that's my answer to the question that Frank poses: why are we doing contracts? And I can definitely see how your method also works with your immediate zigzag for that particular group, for sure. And I think contracts and how we get those agreements can come out in a lot of different ways. But for me, it's also my facilitation style that I really want to give all the information out there, put it all out there, make sure that it's understood and that we're all agreeing to the parameters that we're working in and also a little bit to the end game, and then let them have their experience. To me, putting that contract out there gives them more freedom to do the things that they want to do, to build their experience for the day. And so every time, like in the instance of if I were to not give them the parameters or us build those parameters, however you want to look at it, at the beginning of the experience, then anytime something starts to go up as far as, oop, that's not good, or a red flag gets raised, then I have to interject myself into their experience. And just me, my personal facilitation style is I want to say, all right, here's the thing. Do the thing. I'll be back. Yeah. I'll be over here. And so for me, that's one of the benefits of putting that up front. And that's also just my style too, and what I enjoy doing.
I think that's, you just said your style. And I think that's the other thing too, is that, one of the ways I use the contract is to let the kids or the adults, whatever, know what my style is in terms of how I present the contract. Yeah. Am I going to be really serious? Am I going to turn it into an activity? Is it going to be more fun? Is it going to be, okay, I'm sitting here talking to you. This is probably not the most exciting thing in the world to do. You just sat on a bus for an hour. However, this is still something we kind of got to get through. So it gives the kids permission to acknowledge the fact that not everything that they're going to experience today is going to be, just the roller coaster ride, the best thing in the world. However, it still has value. It still has something we have to do. And it gives them that permission, when you say, it's your choice. I'm not going to force you to do it. I can make the choice to come to work or not come to work. That's a big consequence. I can make the choice to wear tennis shoes or hiking boots. That's a small consequence. But it lets them kind of know a little bit of who I am, so that they get a feel for how the day is going to go through my eyes and my expectations of it. So, the contract, like Ed said, is that risk management. It's the, these are the things that we have to dot the I's and cross the T's. We cover our backsides that, hey, we told you there's a chance you can get hurt. That's one of the things we're supposed to do. We've got to watch out for ourselves. We need to take care of each other. I mean, I've had groups where I kept saying, listen, this kid's just not in a good place for the group. He's being disruptive. He's being sometimes violent. I was like, give him to the teachers, hand him off. It's not the best thing. The group wants him out. The teachers kept bringing him back in. The teachers need to be involved in the contract. So the situations where it's not just the group, but it's also the contract's there for the kids. It's there for for the people bringing out the groups, whether it's the teachers, the managers, the coaches, whoever. And then it is for us as well. So I think that's something to remember with the why are we doing the contracts.
Yeah. And also something that sparked in my mind while you were saying that too is it's the opportunity to make sure that everybody's broad goals for the day align to the participants, the group chaperones, if it's a young group, and the facilitator, that we're all okay. You know, you're here, you're here. We're going to start this conversation. We're going to make sure we're all together before we go forward. So that too. And good stuff.
Well, and I think two things. One, I opened up the seat. I didn't realize it was Loch Lauren. And if you want to jump in, please.
Yeah.
Love to hear from you too. And Mandy, with what you're saying, I think that is something that goes even before the contract, back to intention, where asking a group, what are they here for? And this sparked with what you were saying too, Frank, when you talk about the teachers. It's amazing how many times that we'll have a group where, you know, youth or adult, where whoever's paying the bill, so to speak, has their goals, which they're paying the bills, right? We're that's what we're working on. But the disconnect that happens sometimes between what a group thinks that they're out there for, what they've told, and what we've been told as facilitators. And I think that intention to, you know, clarify first before even doing the contract, you know, can be a very important step too. Yeah, because I mean, I've had those flashbacks too, where I've had kids that are just completely unsafe and we're stopping and trying to have that conversation with a teacher that wasn't part of the group while we created the contract and everything can be very difficult. So making sure that contract also is made aware of to everybody that's involved. You know, I think it's I'm going to probably try and remember, and you guys can hold me accountable, to put that blab graphic in every blab I start. I mean, I saw it a lot when I got on here back in July, but it's something that's gone by the wayside. And you know what? Most people are following it. So, I mean, it's not something that, but I think that it does help to kind of remind everybody what the expectations are of the, you know, where we are. So, and this is the dangerous thing of blab, because I might have gone a little too far off on a tangent there. So let's see. We're
forgiving.
Yeah, thank you.
That's okay. Yeah.
So I feel like I have to drink a Batman mug now too.
I don't have a Batman mug.
I've got 4. I'll send you one.
Awesome. I have a Wonder Woman mug.
That'll work.
That'll work.
I have an I only date superheroes mug with lots of superheroes coming out of the middle of it. That's pretty sweet.
That works. Every blab I've been on, somehow my Mickey Mouse mugs wind up, so I went with that.
Nice.
All right, let's get back onto contracts. Otherwise, I'm going to have to change the topic to what do you drink? You know, what's in your beverage instead of what's in your contract. So,
what's in your beverage, or what is your beverage in?
What's in your mug? So, welcome, Kathy. Welcome, James. We are talking about contracts, even though we got off there. The seat is open. Feel free to jump on in here. Also, I'm going to post the poll that it's too far up, so it's going to be easier. Literally, what's in your contract? This link that I'm putting in there. If you go to it and you get to add up to 5 things, just starting a word cloud of what people are. And at the end of this, I will, at the end of the blab, I'll make sure to get a screen capture of that and put it in my blog post that this will wind up on too, so we can see what different people are using. Let's talk a little bit about more about how are we using the contract with the group. We talked a little bit about buy-in, and I guess what jumped to my mind, and we can tangent off of that, is so we got a group to agree to those things we asked them to agree to, whether it's, you know, safety, respect, and let's leave safety off the table for a little bit. Bye, Frank. Thanks for stopping by.
That's it. Frank's out. Mic drop.
We'll come back
again.
Frank, if you don't come back soon, I'm going to kick you out, and then you just refresh and jump back in. Yep, refresh. We'll let you back in. So the question that I want to pose is, so, all right, great. They agreed to these things. So how do we, I guess the first question is, how are we how are we holding the group accountable as the day goes on to the contract? Sorry, Mandy, you're still here, so I'm going to look to you.
I know, but I could answer this question, but I really wish that somebody would jump into that seat.
Yes. So,
you know.
So we'll give them, we're going to do the, now the thing is, as we've learned, if we do the facilitator trick of we just sit here.
Of the waiting and watching.
And watch. Since Kathy and James might not know us, they'll get scared and run away. So Frank's coming.
Or they'll get to know us, right? That's the cool thing about choices. You never know what people are going to do when you offer them that choice, which is another cool thing about contracts that I've seen, especially more so in a high environment than a low environment, that I've seen this sort of switch within a participant.
Clarification for those watching: high course versus low course, not a
Thank you.
In context.
Yes. High challenge course, also known as a ropes course environment versus a low challenge course environment is especially those people that are very nervous about coming out to a high course environment. They walk up with an automatic blocks in their head. And I know that a good contract, especially stressing not only choice, but really going into the ability to opt into the right choice for you, not just in or out, not just you can go up on the high course, but it's okay if you don't, but giving them choices, multiple choices that they can opt into in a role that's comfortable for them, and covering that within your group contract. I've seen people go way, way farther than they thought that they would have as far as just different things that they accomplish with their group when they have that good spectrum presented to them, as far as it's not just in or out. And so I think a good contract in establishing a space where we support and encourage all of those different opportunities to opt in and help people seek those and find the ones that are right for them, help people do more as well.
Yeah. So this is, and I don't mind tangenting here because you bring up, I want to throw it over to Frank of some of the things that you've seen at your course, since, piggybacking on that, because we've had some discussions about that on the high course of how choice plays into it. And I know we'll do a blab in the future on choice, but it seems appropriate here. Can you talk about some of the things you've seen with the choice aspect of the contract with the groups we've been working with out at Round Lake?
Yeah, one of the things when I started up here was a conscious choice to switch from the we're going to spend 30 minutes working with you to take 4 steps on this one activity because you're going to do it without holding on to the sling lines, the safety ropes. I took the shift off of it and just really said, these things are, the sling lines are there for you, emotionally, physically, to really kind of do it. And I took that more, for lack of a better term, military style, of the push out of it. Really kind of meant let the whole thing just go into a more relaxed feel, do it just kind of at your pace, what you're looking to do. And we found that we're getting much more honest answers from people. It's not just how'd it go? Well, I did this because you forced me to do it. Or, you made me do this, but it was, hey, you know what? Even though I only did this, I feel good. And I'm getting, 10 honest answers versus 1, when we're wrapping up the day.
Yeah.
And to go what you had said earlier, Mandy, about experience being one of the parts of the contract. I think I got this from Don Nagy. So Don, if you're listening, props to you. About the high ropes experience, for example, it ends when you forget about it. So kind of the whole thing of, it's not just this contract that's here. It's not just this experience that's here, but it's how are we going to take this and take that next step with it. And if people don't have an answer, that contract, and the way that we structure the program gives them that permission. You don't have to tell me. You just spend 4 hours up in the air going through a whole roller coaster of emotions. I do not honestly expect you to have it all figured out to give me a very concrete answer all the time. So I always challenge them. I say, listen, there's 15 of you here. If you can't answer me now, fine. I don't know is the best answer you can give because it's an honest answer. But then you're going to make sure you tell somebody in this group within the next week. And so so it gives a way for that contract and that agreement for the group to extend past our just normal, 4-hour program that we might have. So, but the honesty and the true value that I think people are getting it has been much better than 9 years of doing it one way and then suddenly taking that pressure off of the participants, and whatever they end up doing just turns out really well.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Sorry, Kathy.
Yeah, sorry,
but
Kathy.
You're welcome to join. We got a comment there, Frank.
Oh, sorry.
Teacher contracts,
Yeah,
different. Although classroom teachers are more than welcome to use contracts too. I know that even though I'm a challenge course person by trade, that I definitely have used experiential education in the classroom, and contracts are just as important there. Although this isn't like bargaining contracts, so.
Lori Frank has really good things. Lori Frank's caring classroom and into the caring classroom.
Oh yeah, journey into the caring classroom.
Yeah, Mandy, would you be willing to jump over, because I think you're on your computer, and maybe find a link to throw into the comments for either her website
for Lori's book?
Yeah, for Lori's book.
Yeah, absolutely, I can do that. So one thing that I totally agree with, there it is, journey toward the caring classroom. One thing that I wanted to absolutely, I'll give Frank some props here, because I know that I've also, during the end of day debrief, had participants point back to that contract that happened at the beginning of the day and identify pieces of it that helped them have a better experience. Yeah. And that's without prompting from me saying, hey, what did we do? Although sometimes that happens too. But I think that when you have that really good agreement in the beginning, you have a solid program, and I've definitely seen that naturally happen. And when that happens, that's really cool to me, because that gives that automatic segue to say, okay, well, if that was valuable here, where else could that be valuable? Where could knowing where everybody's at and having ground rules set and knowing what everybody is comfortable doing with each other, where else is that valuable? Where else is valuing other people's choices going to be beneficial to an entire group or community? So that's my favorite part, is when they naturally flow back to the beginning of the day and then we rocket it back into wherever they're from. That's pretty sweet. Now I'm going to post that link now that I've rambled.
Well, no, it was a good ramble. It made sense.
Yeah. And I think that's what we're striving to do, is to have the experience go past that. What can we do?
Yeah.
And if we're doing that, even if it's just a contract, whatever it is, doesn't matter. I've been helping a client we had brought their basketball team out, and he was trying to figure out where he could get a banana slug, a rubber chicken, a rubber pig, and a koosh ball, because the team keeps on going back to the things that we talked about, because I used those as the individual points of the contract after we did a group juggle. And I had him carry it around the whole day. And he's like, where can I get a banana slug? So I'm trying to look. I'm like, I don't know. I don't think anybody sells them.
In Washington!
We got a supplier.
Let me.
We'll banana slugs out here.
We'll talk later about that then. But my sources didn't have any banana slugs. But I mean, I think that's the thing too, is that when your contract becomes the activity, it becomes something that's a activity, not necessarily physical thing, but it's a tangible thing for them. I think that would be the true purpose of a contract. It's really going to hold them accountable past, the time that we have them. And isn't that something we're really striving to do?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where, my go-to low course group activity is always group juggle. And I think it's because that my first 2 years doing facilitation, I used to take each object and then put whatever we were talking about in the contract. I feel like I need something here. So, so telling a group, okay, pulling a random object out of my bag and saying, all right, first thing we need to agree to today is safety. When I say that, what does that mean to you? and then having that, and every time somebody talked to it, focusing on it, kind of externalizing that safety, putting it into whatever the object is, and then picking the next object. All I got here is another Batman. So then, all right, tell me about respect. What does that mean? Who do you need to respect? And then all of a sudden moving into group juggle, where all of a sudden there was this total buy-in. Like, it wasn't you drop Batman, you dropped respect.
Oh man, you can't drop respect.
No, you can't.
Can't drop Batman.
No.
Batman will be fine.
Yeah. And again, it really, and then with that, going back into how do we use the contract for the day, having the buy-in where, great, I just used it for that. I set the ground rules, and then, I was ready to move on with everything, and having a kid come up to me between two activities and say, hey, can I borrow, the koosh ball again? Because we need to talk about respect. Or something like that, or doing the classic talking stick on an activity, but rather being the talking stick. Hey, I need to bring respect back out here, and so whoever has this is how we're going to show respect, with this activity, and then getting a call, and that next thing that we were talking about of having that go back into the classroom or wherever the group is going to, is getting a call from the teacher and saying, they found a tennis ball in and they brought that back to the classroom when they were all arguing in a group and asked if they could use the tennis ball for that, and to me, that's why we do what we do, right? It's that transfer of learning and the idea that what we're doing is more than just a day in the woods or a day in the corporate office or wherever it is, day up in the trees, that, hopefully, again, like you said, Frank, it's their choice. The experience ends when they or we choose to forget about it. I'm sorry, I'm thinking of your how do you remember group names comment. I'll let you tell that story in a little bit. But again, not the best metaphor, but we'll go with it in a little bit. No. Anyways, but that's, when we can get, even if it's the contract, and the contract isn't there what they're necessarily, that may not be even part of their group goals for the day. But again, it does carry over if we can have a way to find that buy-in. And that's how we use it throughout the day, is finding ways to go back to it, or better yet, back where you started, Mandy, is that they're the ones going back to it, whether it's in the middle of the program or at the end of the program, whenever it is, which this is another question I want to bring up. Anybody use the 5-finger contract over the years?
The middle finger, the middle finger for it?
Yeah. So that's why I am going to refresh. So that's also why you guys are, because I'm getting feedback from the both of you, but I'm sure it's on the end. So yes.
All right. Somebody said they found banana slugs at World Market, I think, but they were sticky banana slugs.
Nice. Yeah, my banana slugs are sticky as well. Let's see. Did they say that in the comments?
No, I got a message. I couldn't see who it was from.
Nice. Well, we can look up banana slugs for sure. So what size banana slug are you usually looking for?
It's the big yellow foam one.
Like, but how long?
Probably, I don't know, 9-10 inches.
Okay.
We're going to talk about 5-finger contract. You're talking about banana slugs. Go on.
Well, our moderator left. That's what happens when the moderator leaves, man.
So yeah, I'm gonna have to do topic banana slug now.
So
no,
not the big foam ones. But just because I'm gonna forget to say it, Ed, you sparked my idea about, or sparked my mind with the group juggle. It might be a whole separate thing about the different activities that people use to convey the group contract. Buzz ring. I've been using the colored buzz ring, and it's something that people can go to over and over again. Group juggle. One of the ways that we can make the contract more than just words.
Sorry, this is why I shouldn't type and blab at the same time. I'm trying to be a good host here and keep the topics relevant. So give me 1 second here. I did really good when I asked Mandy to take care of something earlier. That was all right. There.
Yes, that was good delegation.
Yes. All right. So 5-finger contracts. One of the things, I was introduced to it, and you guys can tell me the stories you've heard, because I think that I know the story I was told was urban legend. Was the first time I was exposed to a 5-finger contract was was told that a junior high kid in a behavior disorder classroom came up with it. And I've heard many stories since then. But the way I was originally told it was smallest finger, safety, ring finger, commitment, middle finger, turn it around to be a sign of respect, index finger, accountability, no blame, and then thumb, having fun. And the coolest thing I liked about it and used it for so many years, and I learned this from Kurt Horker. I saw this once. He said that if you are being safe, if you have the commitment to the team, you are being respectful to yourself, others, and everybody out here, and you're holding yourself and everybody else accountable, you will have fun. If you try and put fun first, or if you're not having fun, chances are you're missing one of those foundation blocks. And I've always loved that metaphor. But again, going back to, know thyself, know thy group, know thy program, but knowing thy group, I did the 5-finger contract with a group of 5th grade boys a couple of weeks ago that were out for a recreational program of 2 hours of fun mainly, and got a lot of feedback from the teachers of them all running around and going, that wasn't accountable, but they weren't talking about the accountability finger. So that's one of the reasons I can't stand using it, is because it seems like the younger kids really lock into it because it's a great visual, but they're also at that perfect age where that middle finger starts coming out and they start throwing it around at each other of saying that wasn't respectful. But yeah, I've used that then as the foundation. There's 5 things on a buzz ring, but I also find the accountability one, that one falls flat with a lot of groups. Dude, so I actually, okay, what do you got?
I don't use
my phone.
Okay.
Nice. I don't use the 5-finger contract a lot. I know when I do, it's usually what's number 1. Safety.
Yeah, I didn't like saying the smallest one is at most risk of getting hurt. Because then I'm looking at the smallest kid in the group and they're like, gee, thanks.
I'll get there.
Okay.
So number 1 is safety. Middle finger is respect. And why is the middle finger respect?
Because usually it's
it's the longest and most important.
Ooh. That. Props for that.
Ring. Yeah, longest and most important. Ring finger, do stick with the traditional commitment and use the commitment to actually talk about being their level of participation. And that would be the choice and things like that. Being committed to being present in the experience in the way that fits you, but being committed for the entire time. Pinky, for me, is actually support.
Okay.
Because the pinky is either the littlest finger and might need support, or, what happens if, we just need a little bit more support to help us get a job done. Maybe that's, what that little finger's there for. It comes out a few different ways depending on what's falling out of my mouth with that particular group. But pinky is support. And then the thumb is have fun. So for me, when I do it, it's usually the safety talk, respect, commitment, support, and have fun. Nice. Is how it usually comes out for me.
Yeah. You ever use
I haven't ever had like the flipping the bird run rampant with a group.
Probably because I front load it as before we talk about this finger, at no point am I running up to anybody and saying that wasn't safe. So we're not pointing any other finger. So I'm probably giving them all the idea to start pointing that finger at each other. Yeah, I'm inspiring them. But it was funny because then a week later, all the girls from this the 5th grade class came out, and I said, all right, I got some things I want to tell you about. And they're like, yeah, we heard about them. I'm like, let me guess, you heard about respect from the boys. And they all giggled and they're like, yeah. And I'm like,
oh, that's great. Oh man. So let's see. What else? We've got about 10 minutes or so left. What else do we want to talk about? And is there anybody out there that wants to jump in the seat?
Yeah.
Too.
If I can do it with my phone, you can do it too.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for those inspirational words. I'm going to give you props for that.
Yes.
That's props. Yeah. So, okay, I have something that I think is really important to cover.
Okay.
During this topic. What do you do when you have that kid, or sometimes kid, but it's usually that kid at the beginning of the program that will not agree to your group contract? They won't. When you ask, does everyone agree? Most of our groups are like, yeah, or whatever the agreement sign is. But what about that kid that doesn't?
Immediately, I give that kid props, and because I'll even call them on it right there and thank them, because 9 times out of 10 when that happens, there's other kids in the group that all of a sudden look at that other kid like, wait a minute, we had the option to disagree. And you know, part of that is that's, and again, back to maybe style, but you know, I want to acknowledge that, because that's exactly what we're talking about. If you are going to blindly agree to this contract, or feel that you can't voice that opinion, then the contract really doesn't mean anything. It's just another adult or somebody with power telling you this is what you have to do, and you know that you have to agree so that we can go over there and plan whatever that thing over there is, right? So that's one of the ways that I've handled it. Now, I also believe the other side of this coin, though, Mandy, you're talking about the kid that is doing it just to do it also? Or
yeah, I think that there are 2 main personalities that jump out into my brain. There's the person that's like, whoa, wait a minute, I need more. And really getting the opportunity to have that discussion, you know, wow, thank you for asking for what you need for it. That's great. That's exactly what we're talking about. And using it that way. And then there's that saboteur, for lack of a better word, or maybe it's the most appropriate word, that kid that is just not going to do it because he doesn't have to, and or she, because they don't have to, and because for them, with where they're at, that control and that power position is the more important thing, or maybe just they're not there, you know, they're not into this, and they really just plain don't want to. Too. It doesn't just have to be because they are out to sabotage specifically. It can really be because they just don't want to be there. They don't want to do it. So there's a couple of different things.
Yeah, in general, and I try to be honest about it, I'm a passive-aggressive facilitator. So my actions are almost the same in both of those situations. So acknowledgement, testing the water out to see if this person is the saboteur versus they honestly have a problem with something. If I'm getting the vibe of saboteur, I still would say this to somebody that has and will have more of a discussion, but then I just let them know, excellent, this is your choice. And if the rest of the group is agreeing to this, then we are going to move forward at the moment. But you still have the option to ask more questions after you see one of the activities that we're doing, to then decide or ask more questions. And then if you agree, we can get you in here. And again, the saboteur will then sit back, see us having fun, and then want to get involved a lot of times. But then also the kid that has, or the individual, and again, I'm coming mostly from working with youth, the kid that has that issue where it's like, I don't really trust these people, and you're asking me to agree to respect them, and I've never felt respect from this group before, I'm not going to agree to that. Then yeah, them sitting back and watching how it goes. And also they're that voice of reason when you call them over after you've just done an icebreaker, and they're like, see, this is why I didn't want to get involved. Good point. You guys all just didn't respect. And you started name calling before we even started. Thank you. You brought up an excellent point. So, okay, Frank, over to you, because I saw we both kind of went at the same time there.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's when I'm going over the contract in the beginning. It's giving them that example of, you know, first of all, the choices you make. I said it earlier about the shoes I wear. Every choice we make has a consequence. So the consequence can be either a good thing or a bad thing. It doesn't really matter. It's just that's the result of the choice. And so if the kid's choosing not to accept the contract, then okay, well, the result is what aspect is it you don't agree with, and then we kind of go from there. When you talk about your best effort, you know, I'll use it dates myself, but I'll say the workout video, because, you know, the more you do it, the more your results you're going to see. Doesn't mean you can't learn something from it by sitting on the sideline, but it's still part that you can take. And then I also go have you ever had a bad day where you had to take a step back because you don't want to lose control, or lose anger, whatever it is, because these things are designed to produce an emotion. They're designed to produce an experience, an emotional response. It might be frustration or anything else. And if you need to take that step back, take that step back. I'm giving them, I'm telling all that stuff there. So basically, it's the, because I usually refer to movies. It's there's no point in defusing a bomb once it's already gone off. From Harrison Ford, one of the Jack Ryan movies. But so you basically don't give them a place to go. I've told you it's okay for you to step away if you want to join back to the group. They're giving him permission to say no in the first place. So it's not so that factor of trying to be the saboteur is kind of lost a little bit. Because I've already said, yeah, you don't have to do it. I'm like, oh, so what am I supposed to do now to be a smart aleck? There isn't anything. So, but for the most part, I think that if you explain it that way, and the rest of the group will govern them. And that works out the best. The rest of the group is, okay, do you really not agree with this, or is it, do you really have a problem with it? And that, I had a kid, he saw me checking my phone during a bad weather day, and I was checking the radar, and because I had people texting me alerts from weather.com, and they had a policy at school, couldn't check their phones. He goes to the other facilitator, he goes to his teachers, he goes to the facilitators, they say, I've been checking the phone all day. And so they came up to me, and I said, well, which kid is it? And what were they asking? It was the phone. And I showed him, I had a whole group there, and when he was suddenly called out to say, hey, listen, you notice something that's against your policy, let's address it, he backed away. So he started off trying to do that saboteur, but the reality was he had a valid point. It's not fine showing it to him, and I think it's the same thing with the contract. Let him go.
I think that's a good segue into my other thought about these situations too, is I know a lot of people, when you have that kid that doesn't immediately opt in and go with the flow, facilitators are like, man, I've got my sequence. We've only got this much time. We've got this. Okay, let me do what I have to do to, make everything okay so we can get to the next thing. But I think that somebody not buying into the contract is a wonderful opportunity for assessment of your group. Huge opportunity.
Christian Itan from Therapeutic Adventure Group. And I think he was a former president of AEE years ago. And I apologize if I'm getting my names crossed, but he used to talk about gift wrapping with facilitation. That when, especially anybody that we perceive at first as difficult, they're giving us a gift. I mean, that's what struck me with what you're saying. It is a great gift, giving us feedback on what's going on. They're actually feeling comfortable enough to share what's going on. And again, contracts are usually within that first, 10 minutes, of meeting somebody, and they're willing to share that information. It's definitely a gift.
They're giving us a window, because with so much of what we do, we're thinking about forward, right? We're thinking about, we're going through our sequence. We want to give them stuff. They're going to carry it forward. When somebody disagrees to a contract, or whether it's behavioral and the saboteur, or because they have a genuine problem, they're giving us a window backward into where they're coming from and how they interact with each other as a group. And that, I absolutely agree, is a huge gift as a facilitator to get, because you just got a whole wealth of information that just opting into something because it's an adult saying, okay, does everybody agree, does not get you.
Now, before we wrap up, Frank, I wanted you, or I can tell this story either way. We're telling youth stories, but I go back to a group we worked with, a group of teachers, where we had somebody that didn't want to agree to the contract. You remember the guy I was talking about?
No.
Okay. So we had a group of teachers, and it was basically, I believe it was the whole school came out.
Oh, yes.
And we passed out the waivers first and had it, and we're like, all right, we're getting started. And
the guy laid down, right?
Yeah, the guy, he laid down, put his either hoodie or hat down over his head, put his earphones on, and we went over, and I remember you went over to him, and he's like, hey, Frank's like, hey, we're getting started now. Just wanted to let you know. And his response was, I showed up. And Frank went, cool. Thank you for showing up. We're over here now. And and didn't even say another word to him. And both of us to this day, did you ever hear back? We were very curious to know if there were any consequences back at school.
No, but I know that school had some turnover. So.
But sometimes that's all you can really do. I mean, we're not going to force you to participate in something. And again, there are consequences. Just like when those kids would say, well, I didn't, when I get to choice, well, I didn't have a choice to be here. And the question I'd always ask is, great. Well, number one, not great. I'm so sorry to hear that. Please, what would have happened if you didn't show up today? Like, how were you forced to, I would have been in study hall. Okay, what would you have been doing in study hall? I would have been doing extra math homework. Well, wait a second here. So it was either math homework or coming out today. Well, why in the world didn't you go back to do your math homework? Oh, that's boring. That's horrible. At least out here, I'm out in this outside. Great. Thank you. You've given me something to work with here that we can talk about. Yes, you had a choice to be here.
Better than math. Better than math.
Thank you. But at the same time, yeah.
I like math though.
The challenge course, better than math.
Better than math homework.
Better than math homework. But at the same time, the question that comes up is, all right, well, do I want, so if I choose not to do this, what's the consequence? Well, if you choose not to do this and you tell me it's just because you flat out don't want to do it and you don't care about it, well, the consequence might be you already agreed to the effort. You're not, or that commitment to the group. You don't have that commitment to the group now. So I need you to stay with the teacher while we keep on moving forward. Well, then I'm going to get in trouble. I'm like, I have no control over what the consequences are out there. If you want to stay here and participate in a different way, we can still work on this. But if you're flat out telling me you're done, you don't want to do anything, yeah, that's your choice. And I would be wrong to force you to be here. So let's go find the teacher. And I know, and then, I'm honest, I'm passive aggressive. I know that part of that is backing that kid in the corner. And I hate that. But sometimes when you're out there for 5 hours and, this is one of the tools in my toolbox, and I try and stretch myself and work on some other things, but sometimes that's the tool I got to go with.
Well, is it passive aggressive and backing into a corner, or is it a real lesson in choice?
And I wish I want this article. And I think I got to go back to talk to Don Nagy about this, that Ronke, who in our field coined the term challenge by choice, for years wore and still wears a hat that says chicken by choice. And he wrote a great article that I've heard about many times that I have to get my hands on, that he wrote an article that basically talked about in the 90s that challenge by choice in our industry was dead because it had turned into, you have a choice to do this. The rest of the group is going to sit here and wait for you to choose to join us. The whole peer pressure thing. And I try really hard, even with the story I just said, not to put it on that way, to still have other options of different ways you can participate without having to leave. But yeah, I still to this day, I will see that happen, especially in climbing programs and other things where I'm not letting you down until you take one more step. Well, that's not choice. Okay, I'm moving into the choice. And we said that that's going to be a blab unto itself.
It is.
I'm going to put it out there. One of the things is for the next blab, I've had a lot of feedback of saying, can we move this to an afternoon time? So I know that I might lose the two of you to an afternoon time, but I am going to try. What's that?
Depends on the day.
Okay. So let me know what days. I'd love to do another one next week, but realistically with the holiday coming up, I don't know if we can fit one in next week. So I think in 2 weeks, we're going to do another one. We're going to pick a lunchtime, midday kind of blab. So you guys let me know, message me offline. We'll talk about what works for you guys. Cause I really, really tons of props for both of you, because this is so much more interesting than Ed just blabbing for an hour.
Well, it's only an hour, so I can take it.
Yeah.
We're patient. We're facilitators.
So anyways, the topics that I, again, if other people through Twitter, anybody that's listening, any topics you want to hear, you can definitely message me through Twitter. Just tweet out at me, mention me in the comments, or mention me. I would love to have a blab about what do you do. I'm going to start it this way, and then you guys can tell me how to focus it in. What do you do when you break a kid? or break a participant. And what I mean by that is that you're encouraging, and all of a sudden you realize that maybe that encouraging's gone too far. Or, and again, what I'm trying to do is for the facilitators out there that don't necessarily have the training that we have. Mandy, what's your background again before facilitation? You've always been
I do stuff.
You do stuff. Frank, I know you got bachelor's in social work.
It hasn't. Yeah, it hasn't always been in challenge course world, but as I reflect back, I realize that I have always pretty much been an experiential educator. As I went further and further into the field, I got names for a lot of the stuff. Mm-hmm. I think some people that are drawn to teach are naturally experiential educators. Right. Because that's how they learn. And I feel really fortunate that I was one of those. So like I did a lot of outdoor education and different non-challenge course specific stuff.
Right. Yeah. And that's where I want to have the conversation. Oh, sorry, go Frank.
I was going to say, the way I would call it would be bringing them back from the brink.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I've gotten some pushback from some other people that have come to the symposium that we do in Chicago that are more from a psychology field and hear about what we do out in the woods and the fact that, well, what do you need to be a facilitator? You need to go through a training. I mean, and I'm not even touching ACCT or anything like that. I'm talking about at most courses, and I'll speak from the Chicago area, you need to go through their training, whatever it is. And so all of a sudden you have somebody that's possibly 22 years old, and we have a participant that's on the brink. So I'm looking from it from that standpoint of what are some of the tricks we've learned as facilitators. And of course, the first thing we're going to say is know when you're in over your head and get somebody else. But what are some of the things that we've learned as facilitators to recognize before it happens that we can talk about? And what do we do while we're trying to find that other person that we can go to? So I don't know. That's what I'm kicking around. And that doesn't necessarily have to be the next one. But I don't know, just looking for some ideas of, I found this conversation very valuable tonight. And what are some other topics we can do?
Maybe something that I like that, number one, because it's important. But when I talk about that topic, whether I'm doing a presentation or usually in every single training that I do, that comes up when I'm talking about trust. And the trust that our participants put in us as facilitators, that they come out, a lot of them have no idea what they're doing, and they are allowing us to make them do wild and crazy things, some of them that have a very real amount of risk, to put them in an emotionally uncomfortable position in most of the things that we do at some point, ideally even, and are trusting us to bring them out clean on the other end, So I think that having maybe a blab about trust and rolling that in there might be good too. Yeah. As far as you're being trusted to keep this person in a good place and it's gone wrong. How do you fix that? How do you regain that trust as a facilitator? How do you earn that back too is another way that I look at that. And not all of us violate trust or mean to violate trust. Right. Of course we don't. But can it still happen? Yeah. Can we still cross the line? And what does that look like? And how do we bring ourselves back? I think that's a great topic.
Yeah. And I'm open to other ideas too. That one, just when you were talking about it, Frank, something you said kind of triggered that. And I thought of a couple experiences I had on the course where kids broke down on me. And, in retrospect, should have seen it coming. So, all right, I'm going to officially wrap up for the moment here. So, thank you to Mandy. Thank you to Frank. And I know that you're Frank. Over here now in the replay. So thanks for being on the first, Frank's first blab.
Yay!
So extra props for Frank.
I've just been stalking the past couple.
Yeah, and that's fine. I'm fine with lurkers. I did it for a while before I got on my first blab, and wow, who is that still? Is that Lauren still here? Thank you, Lauren, for hanging out with us.
Yay, Lauren! Lauren needs to take a seat one of these blabs. I would love to see Lauren in a seat. Hear her take on stuff.
Yep. So all right. So with that in mind, thank you, everybody.